Hi, I'm John F. Allen. And I'm R.J. Sullivan. And we're the Two Towers.
What about you, RJ, on these last three episodes?
All right, dude. Obviously, the father is Ralph Boner. I don't know how you missed it. I mean, come on. I mean, the name is synonymous with pukey dick. Come on.
Hey, you mentioned Ralph Boner, but you know, it's funny when they were thinking that he was Quicksilver, but that's still not dead yet because we don't know who that person that Jimmy had as a witness is, and it probably is him.
Okay, well, I'm calling it now. You're going to come back and you'll be like, wow, he was the dad. You were right, RJ. Okay. So going back. Okay. I have to kind of, breaking the fourth wall. I was at this point, I could tell Monica was having an origin as I think I literally said that at the TV as it was happening. I mean, I've seen enough. I've been on this merry-go-round enough times. I know what that kind of looks like, and I knew that Monica was due for some sort of an origin to get superpowers, and this certainly seemed like the perfect opportunity, and I was not disappointed there. Episode 8 to me is where everything hits. This is where everything hit its high point for me, because this is where, as a viewer, and you know, I think as so many people who have just been through stuff in life, I think this is where it's the most relatable to the most people, when you finally get the big picture of what is happening, that this is all Wanda's grief being expressed after everything that she has been through, where she has had enough and she has to escape. And how she chooses to escape is where her superpowers come into play and they manifest. And what she does, you know, is extremely unkind, and it's pretty darn evil when you look at it from a certain perspective. Even though you can understand it, you know, it's very interesting when I think this is the part that the idea of, I need to get away. I don't care what the consequences are. I need to create a place for myself, is something that most people understand. I'm reminded of the conversation about Wonder Woman 1984 and how we talked about that other entity being turned into Steve Trevor and how questionable that may have been, and people kind of generally frowning upon Diana taking that sort of action, and just how much more insidious this was at a certain level. And yet, because they gave it a more proper build-up and they let it play out over several weeks, you could better understand where she was coming from, even though, you know, you couldn't approve of it, and you certainly understood she had to do the right thing and let everybody go. But there's that wonderful line in episode 8 that everybody was quoting there for a while on Facebook, even the one about what is love, or what is grief if not love persevering? Was that it, John?
That is it.
Yes. And everybody, that to me, that was the point of, if you didn't read the comics and you were just watching and you knew nothing about anything, if you hadn't watched any of the movies, I think that was the thing. That was the core message that people could relate to. That's where all the emotion came from. And I think that the fact that she had the ability to create a space for herself in a superheroic way was the interesting story here, in the sense that she had the ability to just create a town. Most of us can't just create a town, but she could. And yeah, she had to take over a lot of bodies to do it, but she was going to do it because she just couldn't deal with everything that had happened at that point. I had an expectation going into the finale that she was going to maintain her escape. She was going to take back the town again. And the reason I thought that is because there's the battle between Wanda and Agatha, and she beats Agatha, and she says, "Now you're going to be stuck to be the sidekick. I'm going to turn you back into the nosy neighbor character, and you're going to stay that way," which had me thinking, "Oh, she's gonna take the town back, and Agatha's gonna be stuck in that role." Now Agatha is still stuck in this character's head, and that's kind of, I mean, punishment well deserved, but it wasn't quite what I expected. I expected Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was going to be this, he was going to have to come along because Sword failed to remove Wanda. That's not where it went. That was just what I was expecting. It didn't make it neither better nor worse that they didn't do that, but that's where I thought it was going. Wanda does ultimately do the right thing and does make the sacrifice to let Vision go. Now, I'm going to go back a bit and say, when we find out that Wanda visited Sword and went to Vision's body, when she touches his forehead, I thought she did sort of a download of his memories up till then, and then put that into her version of the Vision. Whether that was removed from the white Vision or not, or whether it was a copy, I don't know. But the point is, that was what I thought had happened. So his memories are somewhere. Exactly whether she still has that copy, if they're gone with our illusionary Vision, if there's still a copy back with the white Vision, which I think is what we will find has happened. I don't know, but that's what I thought had happened when she touched his forehead and then went on and created the town. What else did I want to say? I am in the previously on episode. I thought it was kind of odd. This is just me. This was just a random thought that when it opens up and we see the Salem scene and it's 1693, and let's see, was it? Yeah, Agatha's in the middle, right? Tied to a stake.
Right.
Yeah. And then I thought, oh, gee, she's been caught by these witch hunters. And then it ends up it was other witches trying to take her down, which that was unusual. That sort of went against the trope. That's not how that typically plays out. I thought that was a little bit different, and it threw me off a little bit. It didn't mean anything one way or the other, except that it played with expectations a little bit and didn't unfold the way I thought it would. I do think it's kind of funny that one of Wanda's escapes is sitcoms, and not just one specific sitcom. Like, I know someone who is completely into I Love Lucy. I know someone else who's completely into the Brady Bunch. But the fact that her escape all of these shows, and then she represented all of these shows in her little world, maybe a bit of a some backward reasoning so that they could present the show in a more interesting way rather than tapping into one. They were able to tap into multiple ones. But we all know that television is a way a lot of us escape as well, and I thought that was very relatable. Coming to the last episode, you pretty well covered all the stuff that I liked about it. The one thing, there's an interesting complaint of the complaints I'm seeing is the one thing that people that kind of put some people out were the big old fights, the fights in the sky, the punching around and all the stuff that you would think of as the typical superhero stuff, that like, this is why we're all here. And I thought it was kind of interesting that some people responded as, oh, we've seen this before. We want to see something more. I want to see something a little bit deeper. And, I have mixed feelings about that, but isn't it great that people are expecting more from these shows? Just thinking about the very idea that people are going, come on, Marvel, come on, Disney, you got to keep pushing the envelope. We want you to push it even further. And and really challenge us from project to project. And I think that's very encouraging. I didn't mind the fights. The fights were fine. My one eye roll, if I remember, was it Wanda and Agatha, where they shoot two beams at each other and the beams hit in the middle? It's very Harry Potter. And I just,
right.
It may have been the two visions, but
it was the two visions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a trope I'm not really fond of because it never made sense the first time I saw it. But I really liked the confrontation between the two visions. I liked the fact that they stopped and they talked, and he tried to logic his way out of it and reason his way out of it, and I thought that played extremely well. And I think that's an example of taking it up a notch, of doing something a little bit different. But I gotta say, when they brought the superhero action, it looked terrific. Even on our TV screen, it looked great. It looked motion picture quality. The action delivered at that level. Agatha was a lot of fun. I loved her. Mm-hmm. Her fights it actually reminded me of the Wizard of Oz. It looked very Wicked Witch of the West. They had her on cables, moving her in a certain way that just felt very old school and really channeled that sort of look. And I think it was very on purpose, and I wanted to acknowledge that I noticed it and really appreciated it. But yeah, it didn't quite go where I thought it would. Had Wanda stood her ground and just taken the town back over and left us with a conundrum for Doctor Strange, I'd have been fine with that. I didn't get that, and that's okay. I'm fine with what they did do because she's still kind of a threat. We'll have to see what they're going to do with her. We know she's going to play a big part in the Doctor Strange movie. My only disappointment besides that is Monica Rambeau and Captain Marvel, in the sense that we finally got her. She finally showed up, and they had her deflect some bullets, and that was all. It's like, dang it, So I really am looking forward to seeing them do a whole lot more with that character, because I know she's capable of a whole lot more. And I just thought they were teasing something a little more spectacular, and I would have liked to have seen them go a bit bigger with Captain Marvel, because I know what's there, and I'm anxious to see what's next. So overall, a very satisfying show. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm looking forward to see what's coming next on Disney Plus. So that's where I landed with it, John.
Well, all right. There are a few things that I wanted to touch upon with some of the stuff that you mentioned. One, the Mind Stone was the stone that was used to draw out or expand Wanda's abilities and unlock Pietro's abilities when they were experimented on by Hydra during the time they were captive in Sokovia. And it was also the same stone that was in the middle of Vision's forehead, which Thanos collected for the gauntlet. So it would stand to reason that Wanda would have residual magic or residual energy from the Mind Stone, which is what based upon what I saw, she used to create her version of the Vision inside of the Hex. Mm-hmm. And that same energy from her own magic and the Mind Stone was on that drone, which Hayward used to reactivate the Vision body that we see as the white spectral Vision. So when he and the made-up Vision, Wanda's version of Vision, are having a conversation in the library, and he unlocks his memories, he's telling him that, they may have reprogrammed you, but when it comes to computers, and we know that when it comes to like your PC, they can recover stuff that you've deleted or you've hidden
Yes,
or whatnot.
exactly.
So that's the same exact thing that happened. And that is where we are with them when it comes to the Agatha Harkness character. She was trying to tell Wanda before she reduced her back to the nosy neighbor Agnes that she was going to need her, and she was trying to tell her something to warn her about something. And a lot of people may have missed that, but that is a precursor to her showing up, her being Agatha Harkness, showing up in Doctor Strange 2, which I believe wholeheartedly is going to be the case. And
yeah, you got to have her back. She was terrific. Who played her?
Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with that actress. I got to look her up, but I mean, she was terrific. I mean, there were no weak links acting wise in this.
Right. And as far as people who had a problem with the action, I get what you were saying, and I get that they want more from the Marvel movies, but if you are watching a Marvel movie and you don't want action, you're watching the wrong kind of movie. Right. And I'm saying that to say that it doesn't matter how far they extend this or push the envelope or whatever. It's not going to be true to Marvel unless there's a fight. So if you've got a problem with that, you should probably not watch Marvel movies. I'm not trying to be a butthead. I'm just trying to get you to understand that the source material, if you cut that out, and that's a key part of the source material, then you're trying to create something else that's not Marvel, and that's not going to happen.
No, I mean, I get it. And I was just talking about comments I was seeing elsewhere. I totally get why it was in there. And it should have been. And if it hadn't been, then it would have been a disappointment for me, because that was something that I was looking forward to. And it was something that needed to happen to be able to move the story forward, because of basically you've got someone who's trying to drain another character's energy and destroy the reality that they've created for themselves. They're obviously going to fight for it. You've got someone who's resurrected someone who's a synthezoid and reprogrammed them to kill someone. And then, and there's going to be a conflict and it's going to be a fight. And, I think that the people who, and this is just my personal opinion, the folks who were disappointed with the fight scene, like I say, they don't understand Marvel comics. They don't understand the MCU. And if that's what they're looking for or not expecting to see, they should probably look elsewhere for their entertainment, because that's not what we're getting here. And it's not what we're ever going to get, because it's those types of scenes that are true to the characters and true to the source material, hands down. And that's just the way it is. Well, okay. All that said, all I was saying is it's neat that people want them to keep pushing the envelope. That's all I was saying.
Right. I'm not contradicting.
They're expecting more. They're expecting them to take it as far as, they're expecting them to keep pushing the envelope, keep doing new things. And I think that's good. I see it as a positive. I wasn't criticizing the fight, but I think it's kind of delightful that people are expecting more from it. I don't see any that is necessarily a bad thing, even though they're not going to get it.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't you that I was addressing. It was those people, and like I say, I get that to a certain extent, but I've seen those comments too, and some of them were ridiculous. And that's just my opinion. It's not going to change. They were ridiculous, and they really don't understand Marvel. They don't understand the MCU. And to some of the comments that have been made is just, that's as ridiculous as saying that every time characters get together, no matter whether they're good or bad, they need to have a fight, as opposed to having more depth to the characters to begin with, which is something that Marvel has gone out of its way to bring into fruition. So that's what I'm saying. They're on an opposite end of the spectrum. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. And it is refreshing to see people want more. I agree with that. But some people took it to the extreme. They really don't understand what's going on here. In my
Sure.
opinion. In my opinion.
Well, it's a genre thing. You got to have the fight. You just
Right, exactly, and that was my point, and I agree with you wholeheartedly where Monica Rambeau is concerned. To see her as powerful as she was, and then it was kind of like the bullets just passed through her and stop on the other side. Yeah, that's great, but it was kind of like, okay, you know, I wanted more. I wanted her to be an actual player against one of the big bads there, and not just stopping bullets, you know, aimed at children. Although that was important, it wasn't.
Oh, it was very important.
You know, it wasn't what I was expecting more. And I understand that we're going to see a whole lot more, and where we're going to see it in Captain Marvel too. And then it'll explain why there's some type of antagonism between her and Carol Danvers, which there obviously was hinted at throughout this series. So that'll be interesting to see. When it comes to the faux Pietro and the Ralph Boner, here's my theory on this is that we never saw who the Witsec person was that Jimmy Woo was assigned to. So at the very beginning, when he was first introduced and he and Monica were talking outside of the Hex, he talks about that. And the character, when Monica took the necklace off of him that Agatha was using to control him, we don't see anything more after that. We do see that he has this headshot and it's Ralph Boner. Well, you know, he laughed at his name. If you've had your name all your life, you wouldn't laugh at it like that. That's just not how people do. Right. So that leads me to think that it's an alias, and he was, in fact, the person who was on the Witsec list. That just makes sense. They didn't confirm that succinctly, but to me, that's where I'm going with this. It just kind of makes sense. And his name is Ralph, who Agatha kept referring to her husband, Ralph. Mm-hmm. You know, and then she had the rabbit, Senor Scratchy. And in the comics, Agatha has a son whose name was Nicholas Scratch, which is like a like a devil type name, like an alias for the devil. So they were those little Easter eggs like that they threw in there. That I think that are threads that are going to lead to bigger and better things as we move on to these other films and throughout the completion of Phase 4 into Phase 5. I think that those things are worth mentioning, and they're not just put there just to be dead ends. I think that they're going to be developed as we move further along. And you made mention of the very Wizard of Oz type feel, but there are a lot of, well, not a lot, but enough nods to the Wizard of Oz in this finale. For one, when Wanda threw the car on Agatha and she went to go investigate, there was nothing left but her boots, which is very much like when the house fell on.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. And so the name of Agatha's mother is the same name as the Wicked Witch of the West. And then there was a marquee in the town when they were fighting that said I think it was the all-powerful Oz or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they had these references to the Wizard of Oz there. Right. And a lot of people, maybe they didn't pick up on it or whatnot, but I saw it and I was like, that's very clever.
Yeah. And they have been trying to hint at there being witches before it was obvious there were witches. It's hard to know, but yeah.
Yeah, they had that. And then one other, they made a reference to Blade Runner. There was a time there when there was a marquee and it was talking about like the outlying area that Rutger Hauer's character was talking to Harrison Ford's character about that he had seen before he died. And it was on the marquee as Monica was entering the theater to talk to the Skrull. And that was a reference for space. And it was these little things. They're subtle, but you know, if you're paying attention, you're like, wait a minute, that's from that. And I just love. I'm just one of those types of people that loves little Easter eggs like that. And I pick up on them, and I think this is really like the coolest thing ever. And you know, it's part of the fun for me. So.
Sure.
So, yeah, and it goes back to when you have Tannhauser Gate. So the Tannhauser Gate was what was mentioned in the Blade Runner film, and that is when the replicant, played by Rutger Hauer, and Deckard are having that conversation, and he says "Tears in the Rain" speech, you know, and all of that, and he mentions that and says, "I watched the sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain." And that was, you know, I think that was foreshadowing some things that are going to come in Captain Marvel 2 and lead into Monica's destiny as Photon. And I'm calling the name Photon in honor of her mother and not the Spectrum crap that they're calling her in the comics these days.
Okay.
That's my opinion. So,
gotcha. All right.
So we have covered everything. We've given our grades for this series.
Another big success for Marvel, for sure.
Right. And I cannot wait. They hinted at some things that might lead to the formation of mutants, but it's very subtle. I think that we'll get more of the mutants from the Eternals film. I think that's where they'll hit the nail on the head, you know, where mutants are concerned and how they're introduced into the MCU. But the next thing that Marvel's got going is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I am hyped. I'm not sure if you've seen the trailers, but it looks really, really good.
Well, I actually have not watched the trailers. I don't need to. I'm gonna watch it, so it's one of those kind of things. It's like, yeah, I'm sold. You don't need to sell me on it too much. I'll probably watch it over the next few days. But does that start next Sunday or the Sunday after?
It starts on the
Friday.
Yeah, it starts on I believe the 19th.
Okay, so they're taking a week off. I got
March.
you.
Yeah, they're taking it off, and then they're gonna have that.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, this was fun. This was a good recap. I definitely enjoyed it. So,
absolutely. And we
look forward to the next thing.
Right, and we will be reviewing Falcon and the Winter Soldier once it reaches its conclusion and has aired on Disney Plus. So if you like this video about WandaVision, we will be watching the MCU Disney Plus series as they come out, and we will be discussing and reviewing them. So stay tuned for that when the time comes. And I want to thank everyone who has tuned in to our show, and know that we appreciate you as listeners and viewers. And if you're on Facebook and you want to possibly visit a group community for nerds of a certain age, 40 and over, then OG Nerds is a place to visit. Anyone over the age of 18 is welcome, but it is geared towards the nerds of a certain age. So check them out there. And if you're wanting to check out what I've got going on outside of the Two Towers, you can visit my website at johnfallenauthor.com. And where can they find you, RJ?
rjsullivanfiction.com. And that's where they'll find everything I'm involved in.
All right. So you can also check us out at the twotowerstalkshow.com. We will have some new and exciting things coming your way on that website coming soon within the next couple of weeks here. So we're excited about that. And until next time, stay nerdy. The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by OG Nerds, a new social media community dedicated to nerds of a certain age, 40 and over, although all are welcome. Members are encouraged to share articles and links on their favorite nerdy topics such as animation, anime, art, books, writing, comics, manga, movies, music, sports, tech, science, TV, video games, RPGs, and more. Be sure to visit them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by Showtime Cinema in Mooresville, Indiana. Their friendly staff is always willing to go the extra mile to make your movie-going experience an enjoyable and memorable one. Enjoy the comfort of their new cushioned seating in their spacious auditoriums, and while you're there, be sure to stop by the concession stand and purchase some popcorn where real butter topping is an option. They're located at 300 South Bridge Street in Mooresville, Indiana. We hope to see you at the movies.